We have former National Security Advisor for President Trump and former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, John Bolton, and CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent Jeff Zeleny. Ambassador, what did you think of the meeting? Did you think that it went well, better than it could have gone for sure?
Well, I would say it was a normal meeting, which is progress. But remember what the iconic French Foreign Minister, the Marquis de Talleyrand, once told his young diplomats: don't get too enthusiastic in your work. And I've always found that good advice. They had a normal meeting. That's great. Now let's see what happens.
You, in an op-ed you wrote for the Wall Street Journal, talked about the silver lining being that a ceasefire not being reached in Alaska actually helps Ukraine. Help us understand why.
Well, I think a ceasefire along the existing front lines on the battlefield, then followed by what could well be very extensive negotiations lasting months, years, could turn that ceasefire line into the new Ukraine-Russia border. There's always a risk of that. It's happened in numerous other UN peacekeeping operations, in the case of Korea in the 1950s. There's a big caveat to that, which to carry on the war, Ukraine still has to have necessary military support from Europe and the United States. It sounds, so far at least, like that could continue. I don't think the Russians are going to negotiate really seriously until they suffer reverses on the battlefield. Putin thinks he's on a roll now, and they are gaining small amounts of territory at an exorbitant human cost. I think if those the movement of the troops was in the other direction, he'd be a lot more eager to talk.
Can you help us understand, Jeff, how the White House, how President Trump sees Ukraine's land and what he believes Zelensky needs to cede to Russia? We saw the post where he said Crimea, basically said that Zelensky should give up any claim to Crimea, which was illegally annexed by Russia in 2014, and give up any desire or hope to join NATO. But of course, there's a lot more land besides Crimea in question here. How does he view that? Is it like a bargaining chip? What does he see?
Well, he certainly does not view the land in the way that President Zelensky does, or the people of Ukraine does. I mean, for President Trump, it's just something on a map that he's not that familiar with. It doesn't take that much interest in. But I think going into this meeting specifically by saying a no Crimea and a no in NATO, that is what was his kind of opening bargaining point here. I'm not sure he is that interested in the fine print of what specific part of the Donbass is going to a Russia, or if a Ukraine can hold on to. But I think that he is willing to, it sounded Friday like he is willing to effectively agree with President Putin's view of that. But I think one thing that strikes me in this, I mean, President Trump said he wants a trilateral meeting to come from this. Putin has never agreed to that. So I think after this meeting, President Trump said he's going to talk to Vladimir Putin. He said he's expecting my call. So if President Trump is able to coordinate a trilateral meeting that would happen sometime in the coming days or weeks, that would be significant. That's something that has not happened yet, of course. But I think it's important to point out that Putin has not agreed to the meeting, and he has insisted on effectively wanting to buy more time. And so we'll see how quickly that meeting is scheduled. And in terms of crisis being averted, I think you make a very good point. It was a normal meeting. We have zero idea what's happening right now in the Oval Office, or what is going to come up when the European leaders sort of join this. So I think it is very, very early on, probably at the first quarter of this very consequential day in the White House.
Ambassador, when you look at what's been reported about what is on the table regarding a potential peace deal, you're talking about some sort of security guarantees in the form of a reassurance force that President Trump, as you pointed out earlier, Jeff, would not rule out U.S. forces being a part of, even though he's been skeptical of it, expressed skepticism of it before. And then also this idea that there would be some kind of Article 5-like agreement between allies of Ukraine to intervene if Russia were to advance its incursions down the road. Is that actually enough to keep Vladimir Putin away from his ambition of remaking the Russian imperial order?
I think we're a long way from any of that. I can't wait till the MAGA base hears that Donald Trump has committed American combat forces, U.S. forces against Russian forces on the line, in Ukraine if the Russians violate the ceasefire. One nuclear power directly against another nuclear power. I don't think that's what they signed up for with Donald Trump, and I don't think he's necessarily thought through that implication either. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize, and he wants it now. So he's willing to say a lot of things. He didn't really commit to anything. You could have all kinds of U.S. troops in Ukraine, as we did before the invasion. We had train and assist missions. They weren't there to fight anybody. They were there to train the Ukrainians. That's very different from a combat force. And in terms of Article 5, Steve Witkoff said this yesterday in an interview with Jake Tapper. I've listened to that portion of the interview several times. I don't understand it at all, because Witkoff started with Article 5 and then started talking about enshrining a Russian commitment not to take more territory in Ukraine, not to take any other territory in Europe in Russian law, which doesn't have anything to do with Article 5 or Article 5-like guarantees. Moreover, and I hate to raise this point, but the question of what Article 5 actually means in a non-NATO context, very much up in the air. And so you'll forgive me, I'll read 6 words from Article 5. That the parties, when one is attacked, it's one attack on one is an attack on all. What do? They are, quote, to take such action, each party, take such action as it deems necessary. As it deems necessary. And then it says, including the use of armed force, meaning you're not required to use armed force. You could, or you could send a note saying, that's terrible, do let us know how it turns out.
A lot of wiggle room there,
That's
as
right.
you point out.